Why, hello there. Hello. How you guys doing? How was your Halloween? What's up, Losh? How's it going? Nice of you to join. Hey, Benjamin. You are second. What's up, Wing Chun? How's it going? Wait, I can't see the chat. Ooh. Oh, there we go. Okay. How was your Halloweens? Now the Halloween's over. What? The Christmas decorations are coming up, right? That's how it works. What's up, Rude Noise? How's it going? You did make it this time. All right. All right. Shall we? All right. Can we do this super quick? All right. Oh, good sign. Oh, an A, an O, and an E? It's too many vowels in a single word. A can't be AEO, right? Must be A. Axiom. Abode, I would say. Abode. An abode. Nope. A node. A knoll. A nog. A fog. Above. A love. A cove. A cove. A cove? Is that a word? That is not a word. Alcove is a word. A hove, a wove, a wool, a wool. Awoke, awoke. Yes, not bad. I have one house in my neighborhood where they go all out for Halloween and Christmas. So they hella decorate their lawn. Yeah. I think last Christmas they had it's a corner house. So they had like on the sidewalk that's next to their house, they had like this whole thing that you walk through. It's like arches. Yeah, they made a bunch of arches on their sidewalk, and it was pretty cool. I wonder what they're gonna do this year. Okay. Ooh. She's very wordy today. Sea monkey, jigsaw puzzle, balloon animal, clown nose, whoopee cushion, maraschino cherry, funny chicken, funky chicken, Lego set, fire engine, jumbo shrimp, pickup sticks, bouncy castle, water wings, light bright, stop sign, dark horse. No, light bright is a toy, or it was when I was young. A Lego set, a jigsaw puzzle. What other toy? Pickup sticks. Yes. Wait. Oh, not even. Things with a lot of pieces. I wasn't even thinking about that. Balloon animal, clown nose, Maybe a bouncy castle, like a birthday party. What else is on a birthday party? Water wings? Whoopee cushion. Oof. A stop sign. A dark horse. A sea monkey. Hmm. Oh, wait. Water wings. Fuck! Okay, so it's not a birthday pool party. Sea monkey. Jumbo shrimp. Funky chicken. Maybe like an animal? That can't be it, right? What? No, it wasn't. Because balloon animal, that can't be it. Monkey? Monkey? Chicken? Shrimp? And horse? Should I? Should I try? Hold on. A stop sign is red. This must be red. A whoopee cushion, usually red. Fire engine. Ugh! What? No. Oh no. Balloon animal. Whoopee cushion. Whoopee cushion, fire engine, stop sign. Clown nose? On clown nose? It must be clown nose. But then is it fire engine? Or maybe this? Maybe not whoopee cushion? Ah, I don't even know what this is. It seems like a color to me. No. No. Bouncy castle, balloon animal, clown nose, and water wings. So maybe it wasn't a clown nose? Dark horse. Is that a thing? Ah. Ah! So this might be a thing, right? Shrimp, chicken, monkey, and horse. I don't know. Stop sign, clown nose, fire engine. It's a round red thing. Ah! Oh my god. I almost did whoopee cushion. Okay. I can do this. Balloon animal. Okay. It's still this. And then you have bouncy castle, balloon animal, whoopee cushion, and water wings. That makes sense. Really? How is this a purple one? It's so obvious. Okay. Oh, not at a party. Okay. Things filled with air. Wasn't even close. Not things at a birthday party. Oof. What's up, Nikki? How's it going? What's up, Psyduck? Happy belated Halloween. Oh my god. That was close. Cushion. Whoopee. Whoopee. Air. Fryer. Fry. Cook. Bake. Food. Restaurant. Base. How about dough? Dough! Broil. Oil. Need. Massage. Bread. Rise. Cake. Butter. Ingredient. Okay. Bakery. Hot. Cold. Sandwich. Weight. Height. Focaccia. You are Italian. Pizza. Pastry. Dough. Whoa. Wow. How? Go. Do? Okay, not one of those. Light. Air. Money. Owner. Baker. Near. Desk. I think we gotta just randomly do stuff now. Computer. Watch. Man. Post. Building. Mineral. Animal. Batch. Pencil. Pen. Exasperation. Yeah, probably gonna feel that in a few minutes. Erase. Pen. Pencil. Quick. Quiet. Keyboard. Sound. Dough, eh? Dough. Massage. Punch. Skin. Skin! Ooh! Skin. Massage. Toe. Body. Part. Hand. Feet. Neck. Back. Chest. Torso. Okay, somewhere around there. Heart. Lungs. Wait, what? 40 and it's still tepid. Why? Bacon. Lungs. Okay. Let's do pancreas. Oh, liver? How about kidney? Kidneys? Stomach? It says 40.24 is 1,000. Oh, we're right there. Tissue? Gallbladder? That's not one word, right? Huh, it is. Bladder? Heart? Let me try that. Brain. Nope. Somewhere in the middle. How about esophagus? Guts? How about intestines? Intestine? Intestines? Appendix. I like that. What's up, Greek yogurt? How you doing? Um, gall. How about bone? Bones. Organ. Pancreas is very close. Pancreas, liver. What else is there? What else is in there? How cells? Blood, white, red. Cells is kind of high. Cell. Cancer. Cancer. Oh. Disease. Sick. Sickness. Illness. Okay. Yeah, this guy has cancer of the pancreas, liver, intestines, everything. Metastasize, yep. Leukemia. I did not spell that right. Wait. Leukemia? How do you spell that? Metastasis. Wow. Colon. This is stage 5 cancer. Colon. Prostate. Oh, okay. Well, I gotta go penis. Nope. How about testes? Testicles. Leg. Cervical. Cancer, eh? Sick. Patient. Stage. Critical. Transplant. Ooh, that's right at the bottom there. Tumor. Oh, so good. Good job. Job, rude noise. Tumor. Should have known. Insurance. 6 minutes? That was quick. Oh my goodness. Very good. Rip to that guy. Yeah. Good luck to that guy. Stage 5 cancer. Got a bunch of pens on my desk. You know what's amazing? Pens are amazing. They're amazing. Have you ever thought about that? They last forever. Like, you have pens that you never use for years, and then you just go like click, and you can write with it, and the ink comes out. It lasts forever. Before I left my previous job, I took like a bunch of pens from the supply room. I think they're gonna last me for the rest of my life. That's how good they are. So do pencils? True, pencils are also very good. What's my favorite style of pen? You know what I liked? For a while I used the felt tip pens. I think that was really nice to write. So I was writing like using that for school. So I would write notes with a felt tip pen. It's not like the fat felt tip pens. It's like it's a very tiny one. Yeah, so it's like the size of the tip is like the size of a normal pen, but it's felt tip. Do I like fountain pens? They're too dramatic. I'm a simpler guy, okay? The Sharpie gel pens? Yeah, it's cool to write with, I guess, for sometimes. But I need I just need like a simple pen to do simple things. So nowadays I just use these. Just like simple Bic pens. It seems like you're meant to write in cursive with a fountain pen. Exactly. Like, who has time for that? I can barely read my print handwriting. You think I'm gonna read my cursive handwriting? Oh, I also like not pens, but the click pencils where you click on the tip here, on the side here, instead of at the top. I like those. I used those for a while when I still use pencils. Why is it that we don't use pencils anymore? I feel I feel like when I was younger, I used a lot of pencils, but nowadays it's all pens. Is it like when you grow up, all you use is pens? Yeah. I don't even know if I have a pencil in my house right now, but I got plenty of pens though. Pencils are for making mistakes. We don't make mistakes. Exactly. Yeah, I don't make mistakes. Yeah, if I make a mistake, it was intended, and you just move on. You just go with the flow. Okay. I have this. I don't know why there's a finger. At first, I thought it was like someone pointing a middle finger at me, but it's not. Just the index finger. Okay. It seems very happy. No. Yeah, it's a nice Halloween thing. I think it's from my Halloween box from Tokyo Treat. Not sure what it is, actually. Huh. Oh, like little chips. It's very little. It looks like a pasta, but it's not. Potato chip, maybe? Oh my god! You know what it tastes like? Tastes like ramen from straight from a bag. Yeah, a little more crunchy. Oh my goodness. I'm pleasantly surprised. Woo. Not too strong a taste. It's just right. Ramen's awfully crunchy. It is quite crunchy. I think this is like a 10 out of 10 crunch. That's a nice crunch. Well, I think the first crunch, the first bite is a 10 out of 10 crunch. Afterwards, it gets soft really fast. That's some good stuff. All right. Yeah, I like raw ramen. That's 8.5 out of 10. Pleasantly surprised. Raw men. I like raw men. I don't like cooked men. All right. I don't know. I think it's gonna make me drink a lot of water. Man sashimi? That is disgusting. All right. What happened last week? So last week, if you remember, the Wu brothers, they lose their mother, and their father goes crazy. He went crazy. We didn't see it, but he did, and he left them. Okay, and then Hongrong and Guojing, they run into them and decide to bring the two boys to Peach Blossom Island too. Okay, kind of funny how they never try to find the father again. He just bring the kids home to train them for years, acting like the father is dead. But anyways, okay. So yeah, they bring the kids to Peach Blossom Island to foster them. Guojing wants to fulfill the family pact between the Guo and the Yang families and marry his daughter to young Guo, right? And Hongrong is like totally against it. She says she says that she wants to see what kind of a person young Guo grows up to be first. Yeah, so she kind of didn't outright say no, but probably in her heart she thought no, but she didn't want to say that in front of Guojing. So she says she wants to see what kind of person young Guo grows up to be. On the island, Yang Guo is continuously being bullied by Guofu and the Wu brothers. They're just bullies. He finds this powerful cricket that beats their cricket, and so Guofu, she smashes it with her foot, and they would like beat him up and stuff like that. So he's not having a good time on the island. Guojing makes all of the children his disciples, okay, because he wants to train them in martial arts. Hongrong, on the other hand, she fears that young Guo will grow up to become like his dad, Yang Kang. So she says that she'll train him alone. Okay. Guojing can train the other three. But as Guojing's training the other three every day, Hongrong's just teaching Yang Guo philosophical literature. Okay. No martial arts training at all. Yang Guo endures this. He just trains in the toad stance that Ouyang Feng taught him instead. One day, the three bullies bully him. They beat him up, but while he's on the ground, he has this like surge of power, and he uses the toad stance to knock Wuxia unconscious. Okay? Now, when Hongrong and Guojing arrive, Hongrong immediately recognizes the signs of the toad stance on the wound, and she demands to know where Ouyang Feng is. Now, they have an argument. Yang Guo calls Ouyang Feng a good man, okay, but he also calls Ku Zhen'e an old blind man, okay, not very respectful. That night, Guojing reluctantly tells Yang Guo that their master-disciple bond is dissolved. They not going to be his master anymore. Because of Yang Guo's disrespect towards Ku Zhen'e, and probably because to them, Yang Guo seems like he will turn into his dad one day. So Guojing plans to have Yang Guo study martial arts at the Chenjin sect. Okay, so he takes him on a journey off the island to the mountain where their sect is. On the way, they stop at this temple. There, they hear someone go, "Huh?" Like a person is surprised to meet them, but we don't know who it is yet. And that's where we left off. How's that? Cream? Nikki, you dirty. Do I hate Azu or Guofu more? Oh. At this moment, Azu, I hate her more. Because I think she did some really bad stuff. Guofu hasn't done really bad stuff yet. But then, she has a lot of potential. Okay. I wouldn't be surprised. But currently, as of this moment, Guofu is just a little bratty little girl. Their dad is crazy. You think you should still find the dad, right? And the dad is not. We don't know how crazy the dad is. Maybe he's um like he'll come back. Um maybe he'll have like moments of lucidity or something. Maybe he'll have just maybe he's like usually he's normally lucid and he'll have like moments of craziness, but he'll be okay. You bet Yang Guo will still get an advantage from all the reading lessons? Yeah, you think so? Yeah, he won't be illiterate. Okay. So Yang Guo is the main character, right? I'm assuming. I can't see how the main character can be anyone else. It can't be a person that we've never seen before, right? That'll allow him to be able to read manuscripts if he comes across any. Yeah. All right. Man, I have 2 monitors and my side monitor broke. So usually I have like a lot of things on the side here to control the stream stuff, and I can't. They're all on one monitor now. Yeah, I want to buy a new one. Oh, you know, I want to buy one that's like you can make it into a vertical monitor, like just flip it. It'll be vertical. I think that's really cool. Takes up less space, like less horizontal space. Yeah, I think I'm gonna wait until Black Friday to see if there are any sales. It's too much to do everything from one screen. I would like to have like, what if I had like 3 monitors? Yeah, I'll have so much space. I wouldn't know what to do with it. But yeah, 2 is good. 1 is very restrictive. 3 seems best. What about 6? Like 3 here and then 3, like 2 levels of it. Oof, awesome. Hey, Losh, thanks. You didn't have to do that. Hey, I appreciate it. All right. That's 1 monitor right there. Exactly. Get a bunch of monitors, like some sort of security room in a movie. You know, instead of taking pens, I should have taken monitors for my work. All right, we good? Chapter 3, Part 2. Yeah, it's okay though. I've had this side monitor for like a very long time, so it's been good to me so far. It's about time I let it rest forever. Rest in peace. You know what? It deserves a farewell bell toll. Goodbye, monitor. You have served me well. Get one with a touch screen? Oh, I'll be too tempted to touch it. Okay, so we hear someone go, huh? When they saw Guojing. Have it cremated? I don't know about that. Isn't that bad? Will there be like toxic fumes if I burn it? Probably. Especially with LCD monitors, right? Supposed to recycle them. Pretty sure that's illegal? Well, now that you said that, I have to do it. Alright. Turning around, Guojing saw two middle-aged Taoists standing at the mountain gate, gazing intently with faces full of indignation. His strike upon the steel must have been witnessed by them. The two Taoists exchanged glances and immediately left the temple. Their steps were light and swift, clearly martial artists. Guojing thought, this place isn't far from Mount Zhongnan. They must be from Chongyang Palace of the Qianchen sect. Both were around 40 years of age, likely disciples of the seven masters of Chengzhen. Since his secluded life on Peach Blossom Island, Guojing had ceased communicating with Ma Yu and the others, so he no longer knew the disciples of Chengzhen by face. He did know, however, that the sect had greatly flourished in these years. Ma Yu, Qiu Chuqi, Wang Quyi, and others had accepted many talented pupils, gaining ever greater fame in the martial world. They were known for acts of chivalry, helping the weak and righting wrongs, earning universal respect even among those outside the martial arts. He thought, since I am going to pay my respects to Master Chu anyway, it would be good to go together with them. At once, he gathered strength underfoot. Okay, so they weren't surprised at seeing Guojing. You said, to something else. At once, he gathered strength underfoot and dashed out through the gate. The two Taoists were already a dozen or so paces ahead, glancing back repeatedly. Guojing called out, Taoist brothers, please wait. I have something to ask. His voice was sonorous and powerful, echoing far and wide, yet the two paid no heed and instead sped up their pace. Oh, maybe they do know him? Guojing wondered, are they deaf? Then, exerting a touch more strength, he bounded forward in several leaps, overtaking them and cutting in front. Turning around, he said politely, Greetings, Taoist brothers, and clasped his hands in salute. Seeing the speed of his movement, both Taoists grew alarmed. When he bowed, they thought he was about to launch a hidden internal strike, and both quickly dodged to either side, shouting in unison, What do you want? Guojing said, Are you two Taoist brothers from Chongyang Palace on Mount Zhongnan? The thinner of the two glared darkly. And what if we are? Guojing said, I am an old acquaintance of Master Chu, the long-life Taoist. I've come to pay my respects. Would you kindly show me the way? The shorter Taoist gave a cold laugh. If you have the gall, go up there yourself. Now get out of the way. As he spoke, he suddenly swept out his palm sideways, astonishingly fast. Guojing had to sidestep to the right. Unexpectedly, the thin Taoist's movement dovetailed perfectly with the others. These Qianchen guys are really good at fighting, like cooperating with each other. Their strikes were coordinated, one advancing as the other closed in, sealing Guojing between them. This pair of moves, known as the Great Gate Formation, was a high-level technique of the Chengzhen school. How could Guojing not recognize it? Seeing that they attacked without a word, using such heavy hands, he was taken aback, unable to guess what misunderstanding lay behind this. He neither countered nor dodged. Then came two muffled bo sounds as both Taoist's palms landed on his ribs. Damn, he don't care at all. He's just too powerful. You mean ganging up on people? Yeah. Hey, you can gang up on people in an uncoordinated way, and you can gang up on people in a coordinated way. Okay? They're doing it in a coordinated way. When Guojing received the two palm strikes, he immediately gauged his opponent's level of skill and sensed that, judging by their internal strength, they must indeed be disciples of the seven masters of Qianzhen, and thus of the same generation as himself. As their palms landed, he had already summoned his energy to guard against them, his internal force perfectly measured, neither harming himself nor rebounding the force to injure their hands. The attacks landed harmlessly, as if against cotton padding, leaving him utterly unscathed. He's just too good. So they're very good at ganging up on people? Yes. The monks that jump you? The two Taoists were thunderstruck. They had spent over 10 years perfecting those moves, yet striking him felt as if hitting a pile of loose feathers, completely without resistance. Shocked beyond measure, they uttered a simultaneous whistle and leapt together, 4 feet sweeping toward Guojing's chest. Guojing was inwardly puzzled. The disciples of Qianzhen are men of the Tao, courteous and upright. Why would their followers suddenly attack without provocation? Seeing them use the Mandarin duck chain kicks, that sounds cool, technique, he remained calm and motionless. A series of pop, 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 po, po, po sounds followed, and a few dusty footprints appeared across his chest. Each Taoist had kicked him 6 times, their toes meeting what felt like a yielding sandbag, soft and springy, almost satisfying. He'll feel good to massage. Yet seeing the man before them stand steady and serene, completely unaffected, they were even more astonished than before. Who is this man? Even our masters and uncles are not this formidable. They looked him up and down, a pair of thick brows, honest eyes, coarse, homespun clothes, the very image of a humble farmer, and could only stand dumbstruck, unable to speak. Young Guo, watching them strike and kick his uncle Guo while he did not resist, grew angry and shouted, "You two filthy Taoists! Why are you hitting my uncle?" Does he like Guojing? Maybe a little. Guojing immediately scolded. "Guo, stop at once! Come and pay your respects to these Taoist elders." Young Guo froze. Uncle Guo has no reason to fear them. Why is he so cautious? He thought. The two Taoists exchanged a glance and with 2 sharp shwa shwa sounds drew their swords. Oh, they mean business now. Can Guojing do the same thing to their swords? Just meet it with his chest. The shorter one launched a move called Dragon Slaying Beneath the Sea, thrusting low toward Guojing's midsection. The thinner Taoist unleashed Gale Sweeps the Leaves, slicing swiftly at young Guo's right leg. At young Guo? Not cool. What did the kid do? Oh, what did Guojing do? For that matter. Guojing cared little for the sword aimed at himself, but when he saw the thin Taoist's strike dart toward the boy's leg, his anger flared. "This child has done you no harm! Must you use such cruelty? That sword could sever his leg." He turned slightly, setting the edge of his left palm on the short Taoist's sword hilt, and with the current pushed the boat along motion, gently pushed to the left. The short Taoist's blade turned involuntarily, clanging against his companion's sword and deflecting the attack. This maneuver, using an enemy's strength against himself, came from Guojing's mastery of the bare-handed blade seizing techniques. Even against 10 or 8 opponents at once, he could turn an enemy's saber to block another's sword. Use an enemy's spear to strike another's whip, fighting many with few by borrowing their own strength. Both Taoists felt a jolt of numbness shoot through their wrists, their tiger mouths throbbing faintly. Instantly, they jumped aside, turning midair to glare at Guo Jing, half in fear, half in grudging admiration. With a joint low cry, they raised their swords and rushed forward again. Guo Jing thought, this is the basic groundwork for the Tiangang Beidou formation. Though it is a top-tier swordplay, there are only two of you, and your technique is unrefined. What use is it? Fearing Yang Guo might be injured by a stray blade, he shifted aside from their twin swords, caught the boy up in his right arm, and called out, I am an old friend of Master Chu. There's no need for this hostility. The thin Taoist snapped, it's useless to pretend you know Master Ma. Guo Jing said, Master Ma truly did teach me martial arts. Liar! The short one shouted angrily. You dare to mock us? Perhaps you'll next claim that our founder Chong Yang himself instructed you. He lunged forward, his sword thrusting for Guo Jing's chest. Guo Jing was bewildered. These two are clearly Chen Zhen disciples. Why do they take me for an enemy? His friendship with the seven masters of Chen Zhen had been deep and sincere, and now that Yang Guo was to seek training at Chongyang Palace, he dared not offend the Taoists there. Thus, he simply dodged again and again, never striking back. The two Taoists, both alarmed and afraid, now knew their opponents' skill far exceeded their own, and that their blades would never touch him. Exchanging a quick signal, they suddenly changed their sword patterns. Shua, 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 shua! A flurry of thrusts, stabbing toward Yang Guo's chest and back, every move ruthless and meant to kill. Seeing such merciless swordplay aimed at a child, even Guo Jing could no longer suppress his anger. As the shorter Taoist's sword lunged viciously, Guo Jing's right hand shot out, two fingers extended to grip the blade flat between them. His wrist gave a slight inward twist as his right elbow darted toward the man's nose. The short Taoist pulled back with all his strength, but the sword would not budge. Realizing that if he took the blow to his face, he would be dead or maimed, he had no choice but to withdraw his weapon and leap aside. Wait, should I... This is a good size. By now, Guo Jing's martial artistry truly moved as his will commanded, every motion perfect in measure. As his right fingers pressed down slightly, the sword in his grasp stood upright, its hilt rebounding upward. The thinner Taoist was at that instant thrusting toward Yang Guo's head and neck. His sword edge struck the rising hilt with a chung clang. A wave of heat coursed through his right arm, and his whole body quivered. Startled, he released the sword and jumped back. Both Taoists cried, Lewd villain, your skill is fierce. We'll be off, and turned to flee. Lewd? What did Guo Jing do? Guo Jing had been insulted more than once in his life, called fool and dullard, even clumsy thief, but never before had anyone labeled him a lewd villain. The words struck him like lightning. Still holding Yang Guo in his arms, he bounded forward in pursuit. In a flash, he was behind them. With a single spring of his right foot, he flew over their heads, landed before them, and turned sharply, shouting, What did you just call me? Those words struck him more than the swords. The short Taoist's courage faltered, though he forced his mouth to stay defiant. If you weren't scheming to marry that woman surnamed Long, what business would you have on Mount Zhongnan? He stepped back 3 paces, wary that Guo Jing might lunge at him. Guo Jing stood stunned. Scheming to marry a woman named Long. Who is this Lady Long? Why would I marry her? I already have Rong Er. How could I think of another? Bewildered and unable to make sense of it, he remained motionless in confusion. The Taoist saw him dazed and silent, exchanged a quick glance, then dashed past him up the mountain. Yang Guo, noticing Guo Jing's distraction, wriggled down from his arms and said, Uncle Guo, those two stinking Taoists are gone. Guo Jing blinked as if waking from a dream and said, They said I wanted to marry that woman surnamed Long. Who could she be? Yang Guo replied, Nephew doesn't know. Those two didn't ask right from wrong. They attacked for no reason. They must have mistaken you for someone else. Guo Jing couldn't help laughing. Ha ha ha. That must be it. How could I have been so slow to realize? Come, let's go up the mountain. But they even so, they still shouldn't try to kill Yang Guo, right? Yang Guo picked up the two long swords the Taoist had left behind. On the hilts were carved three neat characters, Chongyang Palace. The two climbed steadily upward. After more than an hour's trek, they reached the Golden Lotus Pavilion. Beyond that, the path grew steep and perilous, clambering over jagged rocks, edging along cliffs, winding higher and higher. By the time they passed Sun and Moon Rock, night had begun to fall. When they arrived at Embracing Sun Rock, a slender crescent moon had risen on the horizon. That Embracing Sun Rock was marvelously shaped, like a woman cradling a child in her arms. They rested a while. Guo Jing asked, Goer, are you tired? Yang Guo shook his head. Not tired. Good, said Guo Jing. Then let's keep going. After a while longer, a large rock loomed across the path, its shape eerie and grim, jutting out from the cliffside like an old crone bending over to peer down. As Yang Guo's heart quivered with unease, several sharp whistles rose from behind the rock, and four Taoists leapt out, each holding a longsword. They barred the way without a word. Guo Jing stepped forward, clasped his hands, and said respectfully, I am Guo Jing of Peach Blossom Island. I have come to pay my respects to Master Chu. A tall Taoist stepped ahead and sneered. Guo Daxia's name rings across the land, son-in-law of the venerable master of Peach Blossom Island. Yet who would have thought you'd stoop to such disgrace? Get yourself down the mountain at once. Guo Jing thought, what have I done that's disgraceful? Keeping his composure, he said, I am indeed Guo Jing. Please report to Master Chu, and all will be made clear. The tall Taoist shouted, You've come to Mount Zhongnan flaunting your strength. Clearly your life has lasted too long. If we don't show you some skill, you'll think everyone in Chongyang Palace is useless. His tone suggested that the two Taoists earlier had suffered defeat at this man's hands. Even as he spoke, his longsword flashed in the moonlight. His steps weaving through the 8 trigrams, moving on an oblique angle. With a move called Parting Flowers, Sweeping Willows, he thrust toward Guo Jing's ribs. Guo Jing wondered silently. Have all the customs of the Jianghu changed in the 10 years I've been away? He shifted his body and let the sword pass, intending to speak, but the other 3 Taoists suddenly raised their longswords as well, surrounding him and Yang Guo in the center. Guo Jing said, What must I do to convince the 4 of you that I truly am Guo Jing? The tall Taoist barked, Unless you can take the sword from my hand. As he spoke, he lunged again, this time in a straight thrust toward Guo Jing's chest. Ordinarily, swordsmanship values the agility of angle and flexibility of motion, unlike the heavy chops of a broadsword. Yet, this Taoist's thrust was crude and arrogant, showing utter contempt. Guo Jing felt a flicker of irritation. Taking your sword? That's hardly difficult. As the tip neared his chest, he bent his forefinger beneath his thumb and flicked toward the blade's point. The Taoists don't seem to be good at communication. Yeah, maybe they should read some more Confucius. Maybe they should take Huang Rong's class. Maybe Huang Rong was right. You should study that before studying martial arts. As the tip neared his chest, he bent his forefinger beneath his thumb and flicked toward the blade's point. With a resonant pung, the Taoist lost his grip, and his sword flew upward into the air. Without waiting for it to fall, Guojing flicked again. 3 quick chung chung chung, 3 soft pung 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 sounds, and 3 more swords shot skyward, glittering silver under the moon. Yang Guo cheered loudly. "Now do you believe him?" he shouted. Guojing usually spared his opponents, always holding back enough to leave them unharmed. But angered by this tall Taoist's rudeness, he had employed one of Huang Yaxi's most subtle arts, the divine flicking finger. During it sounds kind of weird. Divine flicking finger. During his years on Peach Blossom Island, he had fully mastered this technique, and with his deep internal strength, its effect was extraordinary. The 4 Taoists, their swords flung from their hands, still could not fathom what method he had used. The tall one cried out, This lewd villain practices demonic sorcery! Run!" Leaping behind the crone rock, he fled among the boulders, the others following close behind until all vanished into the dark. To be cursed first as a lewd villain and now as a sorcerer left Guojing at once indignant and amused. He said, "Guer, place the swords neatly by the rocks." "Yes," said Yang Guo, picking up the 4 blades and setting them beside the 2 he had already carried, all arranged upon a slab of bluish stone. He admired Guojing's skill with absolute awe. His heart burned with admiration so deep that the words kept turning on his tongue. "Uncle Guo, I don't want to learn from those stinking Taoists. I want to learn from you." But when he remembered what had happened on Peach Blossom Island, he swallowed the thought. They rounded 2 bends, and the ground opened a little. Suddenly, the sharp clanging of weapons rang out from the pine woods. 7 Taoists sprang from the shadows, each wielding a longsword. Guojing took one look at the arrangement, 4 on the left, 3 on the right, and his heart tightened. It was the formation of the Tiangangbeidou array. To face this formation could prove troublesome, he thought. Not daring to take them lightly, he said softly to Yang Guo, "Go wait behind that big rock, further back, so I won't be distracted worrying about you." Yang Guo nodded, but, unwilling to appear timid before the Taoist, loosened his belt and called out loudly, "Uncle Guo, I'm going for a pee." That's cute. Then he turned and ran toward the big rock to relieve himself. Guojing smiled inwardly. A clever, lively child, just like Rong-er. May he stay righteous all his life and use his gifts for good. When he looked back, the 7 Taoists stood with their backs to the moon, their faces shadowed. 6 of them had long beards under their chins, men clearly no longer young. The 7th was small and slender, seemingly the youngest of the group. Guojing thought, better to reach Master Chu quickly and explain this misunderstanding. Why waste time in needless fighting? With a flicker of movement, he shifted to the left, taking position directly at the array's North Star point. The 7 Taoists saw Guojing suddenly dart off toward the left without a word, and, puzzled by his intent, the one standing in the Tianqian position gave a sharp whistle, signaling the others to pivot left to encircle him. Yet, as soon as they began to shift, Guojing seized the initiative, taking 2 quick steps to the right, again securing the North Star position. The Tianqian Taoists had meant for the 3 holding the handle of the Big Dipper to attack from the flank, but Guojing's location thwarted their formation. The 3 could not reach him at all, while all 7 of them were exposed, unable to defend or coordinate. They now stood open to his attack. The Tianchen Taoist waved his left hand, commanding the array to rotate. But as the Yao Guang Taoist moved his foot to begin the change, Guo Jing took 2 more steps forward and once again occupied the North Star point. By the time the Beidou formation was rearranged, the 7 were still trapped in a position both weak in offense and clumsy in defense. The Tiangang Beidou formation was one of the highest martial formations of the Chenjin sect. When perfected, 7 masters working in concert could be said to be invincible beneath heaven. But Guo Jing thoroughly understood the array's secret. So long as he could hold the North Star pivot, he could become the ruler of the formation, rendering the others like servants bound by his control, unable to act freely. Because these 7 Taoists had not yet mastered the array, Guo Jing easily wrested that key position. Were the formation commanded by Ma Yu or Qiu Chuqi, such a breach would have been impossible. After several changes of position, Guo Jing still maintained the initiative, calm and focused, standing quietly in the controlling spot at each turn. The elder Taoist at the Tianchu position, wise and experienced, sensed that something was wrong. "Change formation!" he shouted. The 7 scattered, darting east and west, hoping the confusion would cloud their opponent's judgment. In a blink, they regrouped, the positions of the dipper's handle and bowl reversed, the array now facing southeast. As soon as it settled, the Taoists of Tianxuan and Yu Heng thrust forward with their swords, only to see their enemy standing directly north of the dipper's handle, feet steady, hands crossed lightly, a faint smile on his lips. The 2 Taoists suddenly realized, if we attack now, Kaixiang and Tianxuan will surely be gravely injured. They hesitated, just as the Tianshu Taoist shouted loudly, "Do not attack! Fall back!" Furious and flustered, the Tianchen Taoist gave another loud call, driving the others to shift formation again and again. Yang Guo, watching from behind the great rock, did not understand the intricacies of the array, yet the sight amused him. 7 Taoists running wildly in circles, while Guo Jing only moved a few steps east or west, north or south, and not one of them dared strike. The longer he watched, the more delightful it seemed. Then Guo Jing clapped his hands and called out, "Forgive me," before suddenly darting 2 steps to the left. By now, the whole formation was within his control. When he moved left, the 7 Taoists had no choice but to follow. Otherwise, they would expose their backs to him, an unthinkable danger in combat. Thus forced, they plunged deeper into disorder. When he ran swiftly, they scrambled after him. When he slowed, they slowed too. The youngest Taoist, whose inner strength was the weakest, was soon dizzy and short of breath after being spun around a dozen or more circles. Should have done more cardio. He was on the verge of collapse, yet he knew that if even one man fell, the entire array would crumble. Gritting his teeth, he forced himself to endure. Guo Jing, though no longer young, had lived quietly on Peach Blossom Island for many years, rarely dealing with the outside world. His nature, however, retained the straightforward playfulness of youth. Watching the 7 men run in confusion, he couldn't help but feel a boyish glee. These fellows have scolded me without cause, calling me a lewd villain and accusing me of using demonic tricks. If I don't truly show them some demonic tricks, wouldn't it be a waste of their insults? He laughed aloud and shouted, "Gore! Watch me perform demon magic!" Then, with a spring of his legs, he leapt onto a tall rock. The 7 Taoists were still bound to his control. Since he leapt upward, if they failed to follow, the weak point in their formation would be completely exposed. A few hesitated, but the Tianchen Taoist, flustered and furious, barked an order, driving the whole formation up onto the rock after him. Before they could even steady their feet, Guo Jing vaulted again, landing atop a pine tree. Though keeping some distance from them, he still occupied the North Star position, now elevated above them, commanding an even greater advantage. The 7 Taoists cursed inwardly. Where did this monstrous fiend spring from? Our Chenchen sex face is utterly shamed today. Yet they dared not stop. Each sought footing on the tree trunks and leapt upward as well. Guojing chuckled. Ha! Come down, all of you, he said, and in one motion dropped from the tree, reaching up to grab the foot of the Taoist standing at the Kaiyang position. The greatest strength of the Big Dipper formation lay in its interlocking responses. Each point supported the others, every movement rippling through the whole. As Guojing attacked the Kaiyang position, the Taoists at Yaoguang and Yu Heng were forced to leap down from the trees to aid their comrades. Once those two joined the fray, the Taoists at Tianchu and Tianchen had to follow. In an instant, the entire formation was drawn into motion. From the side, young Guo watched with his heart racing, filled with awe and delight. If one day I could learn to fight like Uncle Guo, he thought, even if I had to suffer my whole life, it would be worth it. But then another thought crept in. How could I ever reach his level? Only that Guo Fu girl and the Wu brothers have such luck. Uncle Guo knows full well that the Chenjin sex martial arts are far below his own. Yet he sent me there. He sent me here to study under these stinking Taoists. The more he mulled it over, the more aggrieved he felt, until tears were ready to spill. He turned his head away, unwilling to watch Uncle Guo toy with the 7 Taoists any longer. But the curiosity of a child could not be restrained. After only a moment, he turned again to watch the battle. Guojing thought, by now they should believe I truly am Guojing. I mustn't press them too hard, or Master Chu will lose face. Seeing the 7 Taoists spinning around in confusion, he suddenly stopped, cupped his fist, and said, My 7 Taoist brothers, I have offended you much. Please, lead the way. The Taoist of Tianchen, a hot-tempered one, saw that the man's skill was remarkable, and that he understood their formation thoroughly. Convinced he meant harm to the sect, he shouted, Lecherous villain! You've schemed to study our sect's array. Your intentions are vicious indeed. You mean to carry out disgraceful deeds here on Mount Chongnan? The Chenjin sect despises evil and will never let this pass unchecked. Guojing was taken aback. What disgraceful deeds do you mean? He asked. The Taoist of Tianchu interjected. Judging by your skill, you don't seem like a man of base character. I will offer this kind advice. Leave the mountain, at once. His tone showed genuine admiration for Guojing's ability. Guojing said, I have come from 1,000 li from the south to visit Master Chu in person. How could I leave without at least paying my respects? The Taoist of Tianchen asked sharply, Since you insist on seeing Master Chu, what business do you have with him? Guojing replied, I was deeply indebted to Masters Ma and Chu from my youth. It has been more than 10 years since we met, and I have often thought of them. This time I've come with another matter to beg his help. Seeing the word, kindness repaid, the Taoist of Tianchen grew even more suspicious, his face darkening like a cloud passing over the sun. In the Jianghu, the words kindness and vengeance held great weight. Often, when one spoke of repaying a debt of gratitude, it was really revenge in disguise. People might say, 20 years ago you cut off my arm. Such grace I dare not forget. I have come today to repay that great favor, before drawing their sword. Similarly, when bandits came to rob a caravan, they would say, Brothers are short on food and clothing. We ask your help in lending us a few thousand taels of silver. Man, these guys are just misunderstanding everything. Now, with enemies closing in on the sect, the Taoist of Tianchen was filled with suspicion. To his ears, Guojing's courteous words sounded like mockery. He said coldly, I suppose even our master, the Jade Sun Perfected One, must also have some gracious connection with you. At that, Guojing suddenly recalled the events of his youth in the Zhao prince's residence, when Wang Chuyi, the Jade Sun Taoist, had risked his life to battle evil men and save him. It was indeed a debt of deep gratitude. He said, "So, brother, you are a disciple of the Jade Sun Perfected One. Master Wang truly bestowed great kindness upon me. If he is still on the mountain, that would be wonderful indeed." The 7 Taoists, all disciples of Wang Chuyi, cried out in rage, drew their swords, and 7 streaks of cold blue light flashed as they thrust toward Guojing from 7 directions. All right. They're never going to stop misunderstanding. All right. Good time for a break. I'll be right back. 5 minutes. And we're back. All right. Return of the misunderstandings. All right. So the attack continues. Guojing frowned. The more modest and courteous he was, the fiercer they became. He truly did not understand why. It was a pity that Huang Rong was not with him. She would have seen the cause at a glance. Stepping aside into the position of the North Star, he said in a clear voice, "I am Guojing of Jiangnan. I have come to your honored mountain with no ill intent. What must I do before you will believe me?" The Taoist of Tianchen said, "You've already seized 6 swords from our disciples. Why not take our 7 as well?" All this time, the Taoist of Tianxuan had been silent. Suddenly, he opened his mouth, his voice as harsh as a cracked gong. What does that mean? "You vile scoundrel! You want to show off in front of that Long family girl. Do you take our Chenjin sect to be so easily bullied?" Guojing flared up. "What Long family girl? I, Guojing, have never even met her." Tianxuan burst into loud laughter. "Of course you've never met her. Is there any man under heaven who truly has? If you have the guts, shout out and call her a little thief." Guojing was startled. He wondered what kind of a woman this Miss Long might be, and how he could possibly speak ill of her for no reason. He said, "Why would I curse her?" 3 or 4 Taoists cried out together, "So you admit it without us needing to beat it out of you, eh?" No one wants to communicate. The Liberty Gong? Falsely accused and unable to make sense of their words, Guojing grew more and more puzzled. He thought, "I'll just have to force my way into Chongyang Palace. Once I see the masters Ma Yu, Qiu Chuqi, and Wang Chuyi, everything will be cleared up." Coldly, he said, "I'm going up the mountain. If you try to bar my way, don't blame me for being discourteous." The 7 Taoists raised their swords and stepped forward in unison. The Taoist of Tianxuan shouted, Don't use any witchcraft. Let us test real skill against real skill." Guojing laughed, already having an idea in mind. "I will use a little witchcraft," he said. "Watch closely. I'll not touch your weapons with my hands, yet I shall take all 7 of your swords." Oh shit. The 7 looked at one another in disbelief. Each thought, "Your martial arts may be strong, but how could you seize our weapons without using your hands? Even if you've mastered the art of snatching blades bare-handed, you still need a pair of hands." How? Oh, he just puts on gloves. That's how he does it. Easy. Oof. I'm the master. The Taoist of Tianshu suddenly said, "Very well then. Let us see your divine leg skills." Guojing said, "I won't use my legs either. In short, you'll see. I won't touch your weapons with hand or foot. If I touch even the slightest bit, I'll admit defeat, clap my hands, turn around, and never set foot on your treasured mountain again." Hearing such boastful words, all seven were angered. With a sweep of his sword, the Taoist of Tianqian drove the formation forward, closing in. Guojing darted sideways, taking the position of the North Star, then swiftly turned toward the left side of the Big Dipper formation. The Taoist of Tianqian, sensing danger, hurriedly led the formation to follow. In any fight, one always faced the enemy. If the opponent circled behind, one naturally had to turn to face him. Now Guojing's path struck right at the vulnerable back of the formation. Even without even striking a blow, he forced the seven Taoists to rotate the array to meet him head on. Yet Guojing kept moving leftward, never turning back, sometimes fast, sometimes slow, sometimes straight, sometimes diagonal, but always circling left. As long as he held fast to the North Star position, the seven Taoists had no choice but to follow, turning with him. Guojing ran faster and faster, soon moving like a galloping horse. Each flicker of his body carried him several zhang ahead. Though the seven Taoists' skills were indeed uncommon, and despite their advantage, their formation stayed steady and precise. The seven positions of Tianshu, Tianxuan, Tianji, Tianqian, Yuheng, Kaiyang, and Yaoguang all held firm, but their bodies, against their will, were drawn to follow his pace in the dizzying spin. Guojing could not help but secretly admire them. "The disciples of Chen Jin are truly impressive," he thought. "Are they? Are they?" Not so sure, Guojing. Drawing a deep breath, he ran as though his feet scarcely touched the ground. At first, the Taoist managed to keep up with effort, but as time passed, their varying levels of lightness skill began to show. The Taoists in the Tianqian, Tianshu, and Yuheng positions had higher internal strength and moved quicker, while the others gradually lagged behind. Gaps began to appear in the Big Dipper formation. Alarm flickered in their hearts. If the enemy struck at this moment, we'd be helpless to defend. But there was no time to think. They could only pour their full internal energy into keeping pace as they circled him. Children sometimes tie a stone to a string, swing it round and round, and when it's spinning fast, suddenly let go. The stone flies far out, carried by its momentum. Yeah, he's going to do that. Now the Tiangang Big Dipper formation whirled in much the same way. The seven Taoists raced madly around Guojing, their swords raised high. The faster they ran, the harder it was to keep hold of their weapons, as though a great invisible force were tugging them outward. These non-communicative idiots are quite impressive. Quite. Suddenly, Guojing shouted, "Let go!" and leapt sharply to the left. Taken by surprise, the seven Taoists reflexively jumped after him, and somehow all seven swords flew from their hands at once, streaking like silver serpents into the distant pine forest, more than 10 zhang away. Not sure how this works, but apparently it works. Guojing halted abruptly and turned back with a cheerful smile. The seven Taoists stood like statues, faces pale as ashes, though each still held his proper position. At least they're in position. Their formation miraculously unbroken. Guojing saw that despite such frantic running, they had maintained order, proof of their long and rigorous training. The Taoist of Tianqian, breathing hard, gave a low whistle. The seven withdrew behind the rocky ridge. Guojing said, "Guor, let's go up the mountain." But after calling twice, there was no answer. He turned around, yet Yang Guo was nowhere to be seen. Only a small shoe lay abandoned behind a clump of bushes. Guo Jing was startled. So, aside from those 7 Taoists, there must have been others hidden nearby who seized him. Still, he reasoned that the 7 had merely mistaken his identity and harbored a misunderstanding. The Chenjun sect was known for its chivalry and righteousness. They would not harm a child. Thus, he did not panic. Drawing a steady breath, he bounded up the mountain path. What do you mean they would not harm a child? The 2 in the beginning. They were hella gonna kill him. Having lived in seclusion on Peach Blossom Island for over 10 years, though he trained daily, Guo Jing had rarely crossed hands with anyone. At times, the solitude made him long for a challenge. After sparring with the Taoist, every move he executed had flowed smoothly and precisely, leaving him quietly pleased. The mountain path soon grew steeper and more treacherous. At points, the cliffside narrowed so sharply he had to turn sideways to pass. After less than half an hour, dark clouds veiled the moon, and the mountain sank into shadow. Guo Jing thought, I don't know this terrain well. If those Taoist brothers set a trap, I must stay wary. He slowed his pace, walking cautiously. After some time, the clouds dispersed, and the moon reappeared. The mountains brightened once more, and he felt a brief sense of ease, until faint, rhythmic breathing reached his ears from behind the ridge. Though the sound was soft, the multitude of breaths betrayed a large gathering. Guo Jing tightened his belt and turned the bend. Before him spread a vast circular clearing ringed by mountains. At the base lay a great pond, the moonlight rippling across its surface in silver waves. Scattered before the pond stood more than 100 Taoists, all wearing yellow crowns and gray robes, long swords gleaming in their hands. Looking closer, Guo Jing saw that they were grouped 7 to a formation, 14 Tiangang Big Dipper arrays in all. Every 7 small formations combined to form a greater Dipper array. Oh shit. Like an Inception Big Dipper array. From Tianchu to Yaoguang, an awe-inspiring sight. The 2 great formations, one regular and one inverse, complemented and countered each other, forming a seamless unity. Guo Jing felt a quiet shock. I've never heard Master Chu mention this version of the Big Dipper array. They must have developed it in recent years. It goes even deeper than that passed down by Patriarch Chongyang. With that, he stepped forward slowly. A sharp whistle pierced the air. The 98 Taoists spread apart in unison, weaving through the clearing until Guo Jing found himself enclosed at the center. Each pointed his sword toward the ground, staring fixedly at him in silence. They're gonna have to run even more. It's like a huge. Guo Jing cupped his fists and turned in a circle, saying, I have come to your honored mountain with sincere respect to pay my regards to Master Ma, Chu, and Wang. I ask my Taoist brothers not to bar my way. From within the formation, a long-bearded Taoist said, Your martial skill is superb. Why would you not cherish it, but instead consort with evil? Hear my good advice. Few things mislead a man more than lust. Do not let decades of cultivation be wasted in a single day. Our Chenjun sect has no grievance with you. Why then aid the wicked and come with that band of demons to disrupt our mountain? Please, turn back at once. If you leave now, there may yet be a road for peace. His voice was low but firm, each word distinct, showing deep inner strength. His tone was solemn and sincere, a genuine attempt at counsel. Guojing, both exasperated and amused, thought, "These Taoists truly have mistaken me for someone else. If Rong-er were beside me, this misunderstanding would never have happened." He said, "What demons! What men of lust! I know nothing of any such people. Let me meet with Masters Ma and Chu, and all will be made clear." The long-bearded Taoist said sternly, "Since you stubbornly refuse to repent and insist on demanding audience with Masters Ma and Chu, you must first break through our Great Dipper formation." Guojing replied, "I am alone, with modest skill. How could I dare pit myself against your sect's grand techniques? Please, release the child who came with me, and lead me to your revered masters." The long-bearded Taoist shouted, his voice ringing through the clearing. "Do not posture and jest! Before the Chongyang Palace of Mount Zhongnan, how dare such a lecherous villain act reckless?" As he spoke, he swung his longsword through the air. The blade whistled, its hum lingering. The other Taoists raised their swords at once, 98 blades flashing in unison. Wind sprang from their motion, and the sword light meshed into a dazzling net of light. Guojing frowned in concern. These two great formations oppose and balance each other. How can one man alone find the North Star position against them both? This is truly a thorny situation. Yeah, not to mention you have a whole army against you. It's already hard enough. Even as he pondered, the 98 Taoists of the twin formations closed in, sword lights crossing until not even a fly could slip through. The long-bearded Taoist called out, "Draw your weapon! The Tianjin sect does not harm those who fight unarmed." Except they try to kill Yang Guo. Guojing thought, "This Big Dipper formation is indeed difficult to break, but to actually injure me, that's not so certain. With so many people, the array's power is great, yet their strengths vary. There must be flaws somewhere. Better to observe a little first." Suddenly, he spun on his heel and rushed northwest, executing the hidden dragon yields from the 18 dragons subduing palms. His hand stretched forward, then drew back, before thrusting out on a sharp diagonal. The 7 young Taoists in that sector crossed their swords to their left hands, joined forces, and struck out with their right palms together, blocking his strike by mutual power. Guojing's palm technique had long reached mastery. The outward thrust was powerful enough, but the true force lay in the recoil that followed. The 7 Taoists managed to resist the surge of his initial push, only to be pulled forward at once by a sudden irresistible drag. Their footing slipped, and one after another they fell flat on their faces. Though they leapt up at once, every one of them was covered in dust and crimson with shame. The long-bearded Taoist was deeply alarmed. Seeing 7 disciples thrown down by a single move, he let out a piercing whistle. The 14 Big Dipper arrays shifted and merged, layer upon layer of strength combining together. He reckoned that even if this man's palms were 10 times stronger, he could never push through 98 men joined as one. Guojing was reminded of the day he and Huang Rong had battled the beggar clan on Mount Jun. Their opponents' individual skills had not been high, yet when coordinated, they were nearly unstoppable. He dared not meet such united strength head-on. Instead, he displayed his lightness skill, darting and weaving through the formation, searching for a gap. He dashed east and west, circling and leaping, stirring the formation into constant flux. Within the span of a cup of tea, he realized that breaking the array alone would be next to impossible. For one thing, he was unwilling to injure anyone seriously. For another, the formation was so precise that it betrayed no weakness. And lastly, his mind was not swift his mind was not swift at analyzing formations. No matter how quickly the pattern shifted, he was always a step behind in reading it. Under the misty moonlight, sword gleams rippled like flowing water. Shadows surged like waves. As his movements stirred the array, there was no end to the flashing and turning of blades. After a while, the encirclement drew tighter. The gaps that had allowed his movements were closing. The gaps that had allowed his movements were closing fast. It grew harder and harder to dart through. I better force my way out and head straight to Chongyang Palace to meet Masters Ma and Chu, he thought. Raising his eyes, he saw to the west side of the mountain 2 or 3 dozen buildings, several of them splendidly built. Surely Chongyang Palace was among them. Pivoting east, he took 3 bounding leaps, then veered west in full speed. The Taoist saw his sudden burst of speed. His gray figure flashed through the array like a streak of lightning. They could scarcely follow him with their eyes. Dizzied, their attacks faltered. The long-bearded Taoist cried out, "Be on guard! Don't fall for the villain's trickery!" Guo Jing's anger flared. Over and over, they keep calling me a villainous lecher. If this slander spreads across the Jianghu, how will I ever hold my head high? Remember how helpful and good the Chen Jin was in the last story? It's just a misunderstanding, guys. Then he thought, this array moves by his command. Strike down the commander, and I might find a way to break it. He parted his palms and rushed straight toward the long-bearded Taoist. Yet one of the array's subtleties lay precisely in tempting the enemy to attack the commander. Once he did, the smaller formations would close from every side, striking north and south, east and west, trapping the opponent inside. Guo Jing had run only 7 or 8 steps before he sensed disaster. A crushing pressure swelled behind him, while attacks rolled in from both flanks. Thinking to turn to the right, he saw 2 mini formations ahead, 14 swords stabbing forward at once. Every strike measured and deadly precise. There was no room to dodge, no way to avoid. Though surrounded by danger, Guo Jing felt no fear, only rising fury. Even if you mistake me for some wicked scoundrel, you're monks, bound by compassion. Priests? How can every stroke aim to kill? Do you really mean to take my life? You keep saying the Chen Chen sect does not harm the unarmed. What hollow words! With a sudden sidestep, he sprang obliquely. His right foot shot out while his left hand reached forward, kicking one young Taoist head over heels while snatching the man's sword. Seeing 7 blades flash toward his right flank, he swung his left hand outward. The 8 swords met with a sharp crack, kala, and all 7 opposing swords snapped clean in half, while the one he held remained unscathed. He was just going easy on them before. That sword was no finer than the others. It was sharp, but ordinary. It was Guo Jing's internal energy channeled into its edge that shattered the 7 blades the instant they touched. The 7 Taoists turned pale as earth, stunned and motionless. Before they could recover, 2 more dipper arrays rotated forward, their swords leveled to guard their comrades. Guo Jing saw that the 14 now stood with left hands on their others' right shoulders, their strength linked into one. He thought, let's see how my power truly measures up. He swung his sword, letting its edge adhere to the blade of the 14th Taoist in line. The Taoist tried to pull his sword back, but it was as though the blade had been forged into a bronze anvil, utterly immovable. The other 13 Taoists channeled their inner strength together, hoping to combine their power to neutralize the pull of Guo Jing's sword. Guo Jing had meant precisely to draw them into uniting their force. Suddenly, he felt a surge of energy press hard against his weapon. He shouted, "Careful!" and shook his right arm. A loud, crackling roar burst forth. like the fall of some massive structure. 12 swords snapped clean in two at once. The remaining two twirled up into the air. The 14 Taoists shrank back in alarm. Guo Jing sighed to himself. My internal strength is still not fully refined. 2 blades escaped unbroken. This stunning display filled the Taoists with deeper dread. They moved with increased caution, though 21 of them had lost their weapons. The fierce wind of their palms had lost none of its vigor. Guo Jing's earlier feat of shattering the swords had not gone perfectly, and as his opponents closed ranks again, the array's defense grew even firmer. He thought, I wonder whether Masters Ma and Chu have devised new refinements to this formation over the years. If they suddenly change into a superior formation I can't decipher, I might be captured. This cannot drag on. I must seize the initiative. He raised his voice. Taoist brothers, if you still refuse to give way, do not blame me for being heavy-handed. The long-bearded Taoist, thinking that his side now held the advantage, and that Guo Jing's skill had reached its limit, sneered inwardly. Even if you shatter all 98 swords, you'll never escape our Big Dipper formation. He merely gave a cold smile and urged the array on tighter, blades weaving toward Guo Jing like threads in a tightening net. Guo Jing suddenly lowered himself and darted to the northeast corner. At once 2 sub-formations in the southwest pivoted to flank him. His fingers flicked, the sword trembled, and in the blink of an eye he thrust 14 times. 14 cold sparks shot forth together, each strike landing precisely on a Taoist's external wrist point, the Yanggu acupoint. This was swordsmanship of the highest order, lightning fast yet unfailingly precise, like firing 14 hidden weapons at once. He struck very lightly. Each Taoist felt only a tingle at the wrist, his fingers instantly numbing. 14 swords clattered to the ground. Shocked, the men leapt back, examining their wrists. A faint red mark showed at each Yanggu point, but not a trace of blood. He realized the man had used the tip of his sword for acupoint sealing, piercing energy through the meridian without breaking the skin. A murmur of awe rippled through them. Even while calling him vile, they saw he was far from cruel. Had he not shown mercy, their hands would have been severed as easily as cutting reeds. Now, 35 swords in all had fallen to the ground. Is he going to break all of their swords? The long-bearded Taoist's anger burned. He knew Guo Jing had shown restraint, yet the humiliation to the Qianzhen sect was unbearable. Moreover, if such a formidable opponent broke into their palace, the consequences would be grave. He barked rapid orders, tightening the formation further. 98 men, encircling from all sides. If we cannot subdue him, we'll crush him where he stands. Guo Jing thought grimly. These Taoist brothers are too obstinate. Very well, I'll give them a proper lesson. His left palm drew diagonally inward, his right thrust across. 7 Taoists from one Dipper array moved in to meet him. Guo Jing sprang to the North Star position, and a second Dipper array followed to attack. Now there were 14 formations in all, 14 North Star positions. Guo Jing had no supernatural means to be in 14 places at once. He relied on his lightness skill, leaping from one to the next, settling in the first array's North Star seat, only to vault instantly to the second, circling again and again until the formations began to lose order. Sensing the danger, the long-bearded Taoist quickly whistled out new orders. The ranks drew apart, spreading wide and steadying their feet. By keeping distance and holding firm, they aimed to counter motion with stillness. He knew that if they continued to chase Guo Jing's whirling speed, he would exploit their motion to unravel the array. But if they stayed rooted and far apart, even his swiftness could not occupy 14 focal points at once. Guo Jing secretly praised him. This Taoist truly grasps the heart of formation strategy. Quick to see the turning point, he thought, since they've chosen to stand still, I'll seize the chance to reach Chongyang Palace. Then another thought struck him. No, that's not right. Most likely Masters Ma and Chu are not in the palace. If they were, how could they remain unaware after such a long fight? He looked up toward the temple, and suddenly, near the corner of its roof, white flashes flickered. Someone was fighting there, though the distance made figures indistinct, and the clash of blades could not be heard. A stir rose in Guojing's heart. Who could be so bold as to fight at Chongyang Palace itself? He thought. There's certainly something strange about tonight's events. He wanted to rush over and see for himself, but the 14 Beidou formations were pressing in tighter and tighter around him. Anxiety filled his chest. His left palm swept forth with the dragon appears in the field, while his right hand moved with the proud dragon regrets. At once, he unleashed his technique of striking with both hands independently, attacking to the left and right at the same time. The 49 Taoist on his left blocked his left hand move. The 49 on his right blocked the strike from his right. But just as his moves were half spent, he suddenly switched them midway. The dragon appears in the field, turned to the proud dragon regrets, while the proud dragon regrets transformed into the dragon appears in the field. To wield different moves in both hands already defied all norms, but to exchange them mid-flow, such a feat had truly never been seen before. The Beidou formation on the left had been guarding against the dragon appears in the field, while the right formation braced against the proud dragon regrets. The two moves advanced in opposite fashions, and their opponents had committed their strength accordingly. How could they have guessed that in an eye blink he would switch? Guojing's figure flickered and shot out between the two formations. The Taoists on both sides, still pouring their strength forward, could not stop in time. A deafening crash rang out. The two arrays collided head-on. Swords snapped, arms were struck, noses and eyes bruised. More than 30 of them were sent tumbling over each other to the ground. Wow, he's too good. The long-bearded Taoist commanding the formations managed to dodge and was not struck by his own comrades, but he too looked disheveled. Furious, he barked sharp orders, hastily reforming the lines. Seeing Guojing sprinting down toward the great jade-green pond at the foot of the mountain, the Jade Purity Pool, he led 14 small formations in swift pursuit. The martial arts of the Chenjin sect emphasize clarity and calm, the use of softness to overcome hardness. For the commander to lose his temper was to break the very essence of Chenjin teaching. In his agitation and anger, he could no longer observe the situation or adapt to it with composure. Guojing had nearly reached the pool's edge. Before him stretched a sweep of shimmering water. He swung his sword and hacked down a thick branch from a willow by the water's edge, then dropped his sword, seized the branched limb with both hands, and flung it far out over the pool. Planting his strength underfoot, he sprang into the air. The tip of his right foot touched the branch just as it struck the water. The branch sank instantly, but by that borrowed force he had already vaulted to the opposite bank. The Taoists were charging hard and could not halt in time. A series of splashes sounded plop, 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 as 4 or 5 dozen of them plunged into the pool. You know what I'm hearing in my head? The last group trampled over the backs of those ahead before stopping at the bank. Some of the Taoists didn't even know how to swim, thrashing and sinking amid the water, while those who did hurriedly dove in to save them. Along the edge of the Jade Purity Pool, mud splattered and dripping, they shouted and floundered in chaos. Okay. Yeah. How did you guys like that? That whole second half of the chapter was just the entire fight. He's just fighting. He beat 98 people. He's just too good. Why is he so good? And where is Yang Guo? Did he just... He wouldn't have just ran away, right? No, because he dropped his shoe. Thought we were gonna resolve the misunderstanding at the end. This section sucks. It's okay. They'll resolve it in the next chapter. Yeah, Yang Guo dropped his shoe, so he didn't run away. But did the Taoists actually capture him? If they didn't, why didn't they use him to as a hostage? Maybe it's Ouyang Feng. Yeah, could be. But then why did he drop his shoe? Or maybe he just ran. Ouyang Feng got him too fast and he dropped his shoe. So Ouyang Feng will be good and the Chen sect will be bad in this one. I don't know about the sect, but I do think that Ouyang Feng will be good. Yeah, he's just a little loopy, you know. But I think he'll be one of the good ones in this novel. But we'll see. He'll be like a father figure for Yang Guo. All right, that was fun. This sect is not doing well. Chu Chu Chi will be very disappointed. All right, cheers. It looks like looks like they're fighting some other people, right? Yeah, so they're already in battle. I wonder who it is. And who is Miss Long? We shall see. Alright guys, that was cool. A lot of action in this chapter. Hopefully, we'll find out what is happening at the sect in the next chapter. Alright guys, thanks for joining. I love you. I will see you next time. Alright, bye.